Let the galaxy burn.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Let's Play Horus Heresy Legions. Now if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please hit the subscribe button below and you'll get notified every time I pump out a new video. Alrighty, now the game has 20 new cards in it today, all neutral cards which you can include in any deck. So we're gonna get on and take a look at all of those new cards. So we're going to begin with the new Imperial Army cards. The first one of those is the Catacombs of Tizca. So this is a neat little card. Look at its effect over here. It costs 2 energy and it gives precognition to a friendly unit until your next turn, meaning that unit cannot be attacked directly. Enemy tactics or abilities can hit it, but enemy troops or the warlord cannot attack it directly. That's kind of cool. There are many useful ways you can use that. For example, you can force the enemy to burn removal tactics or damage tactics on a troop so that they're not available later on. So I think this is going to be a neat little card. I'm not sure how I'm going to slot it into my decks, but I want to try and figure out a way to do that, because I can imagine many ways to mess with your enemies by doing that. Okay, card number 2 is going to be Orders from Terra. Look at this. It's quite expensive. It costs 4 energy, but with that, your warlord can attack again this turn. That can be great for aggro warlords, for example, or even warlords with damage abilities like, what's his face? Captured Mandragorax, the Titan, because then he can shoot twice in a turn, which basically means he does 8 damage. Or the other person who can benefit, for example, is Mortarion, who can then stun 2 targets in one turn, although that's going to cost you 8 energy, but sometimes that's worth it. Anyhow, so many possible ways you could use this. I think it's neat. I'm going to struggle a little bit to decide which of my warlords I really want to put this in for, but I know I will curse a lot when someone plays this against me and wrecks my plans. Alright, next, speaking of wrecking plans, Edict of Censure. This is awesome, but it is a legendary card, so it should damn well be awesome. It costs 5 energy, and its effect is return all tactics in both players' hands in their deck, and then you draw a card. This will mess like hell with those players who depend a lot on tactics. Angron and Perturabo decks will be especially punished because they're suddenly going to find their hands emptied and their options limited. But it's also really powerful against Sons of Horus and Alpha Legion. When you're expecting Vengeful Spirit to get played, or you're expecting the Harrowing to get played, you can just bury their hand back into their deck, or at least bury all the tactics in their hand back into their deck, and hopefully buy yourself a little bit of time. This is neat. It's going to mess up lots of other players' plans, and I'm sure this is going to mess up my plans many a time. I love it. So that's card number 3, and card number 4 is Malcador's Observer. Now, in the first expansion, the Iron Hands Legion, which just came out, they have a legendary card called the Hammer. It costs 7 energy, and it causes you to draw a card and deal the energy value of that card in damage to all enemy troops. Malcador's Observer is the cheap version of that. Same effect for 5 energy, but it only affects one single enemy troop. So you do choose which troop that gets applied to, but it's very limited, and because of that I don't like it. Like, it's an expensive card with a very random effect, so unless I've built a deck with lots of expensive units in it, and I do have a Colonel Ornatov deck which is like that, I don't see myself using this. Alright. And I think that's it for the new Imperial card. No, there is one more. Card number 5, Orbital Bombardment. This is great! Look at this. 10 energy, deal effectively 10 damage by dealing 2 damage to a random enemy 5 times. So, if there's only one enemy on the board, for example, typically if you're playing against Angron, guess who the random enemy who's chosen 5 times to receive 2 damage is? Yes, it goes on one enemy target. I love this card. I am going to really work out how to include this in my decks once I collect it. Okay, that's the first 5 cards. The next couple of cards we're going to look at are from Chaos. And as we go down, we find the first one is Warp Retreat. I love this. This is incredible. It's a cheap card, which is great, costing only 2 energy, and it returns a troop on the board to your deck and then promptly reduces that cost of that troop to 0. So whenever that troop comes up again, you can play it for free. So you can use this to save a badly damaged unit. You can save this to reuse a unit with a great rally ability. You can use this to save a poisoned unit or a unit with a secret order or a unit that's been stunned and is likely to die soon. So many neat ways you can use this card. It is great. I want it, especially for some of my Magnus builds, because you can use this to like repeatedly spawn those guys who create shields or healing or something like that. It's amazing. Alright. A Silent Death. This one's also super cool. 3 energy and is a mass stun, which is a new effect. We haven't seen a mass stunning effect, like stunning all targets. Now there's a caveat. It's stun all undamaged enemies. Most of the time when this card gets played, the enemy warlord will have taken some damage. So he's probably not going to get stunned by this, but when the enemy does a move, like he plays a single powerful unit, or many weak units, like if he plays Ornatov's Barge, and suddenly tons of enemies are on field, you're struggling with how to deal with them, well, drop a Silent Death, stun them all, and you've bought yourself a little bit of time. I like it. Alright, that's card number 7. So let's move on and try and find card number 8 in here. And there it is, Grey Prophets. Now I actually don't like this. Their stats are a little bit underwhelming. 4 energy, but they come with 3 attack and 4 health. And they've got a little energy ability. Now this is very similar to the Thousand Suns Psychic Power Seer. And after using that a couple of times, I've concluded I don't like it, because of the number of times you're not going to learn anything significant. Like you use the ability and you just see a crappy unit in the enemy's hand, or you use it and you draw a poor tactic which doesn't really help, like maybe a Taint of Chaos or something. I don't know, I think it's a bit too iffy, so I personally would not be likely to use this. Well, at least that's my opinion. Maybe I'm going to face them a few times and they'll wreck me, and then I will change my mind about them. But initial thoughts, I don't like these guys. Their stats are poor, and their special power is not something I'm interested in. I'd rather spend the 1 energy on something from my own deck. Alright, now we get to something amazing, the Pyramid of Photep. This is an incredible legendary card. Let's take a look at it. 5 energy, so it's very playable. 8 health, so it's tough as balls. And then it only has 2 attack, which is a little weak, but it does have cannot attack, so its 2 attack doesn't matter so much. It's just going to chip away a little at anyone who attacks it. It has ward, so it's invulnerable to removal. So this will stay there until the enemy beat it down. And while it's alive, it has a cool relentless ability. Add a random tactic to your hand. And a lot of the times, random tactics can be very powerful because they bring something, an ability which is not included with your faction for balance's purpose, but with that your faction becomes amazing. So for example, the best one tends to be if somebody like Gabriel Santar gets mercy and forgiveness from the Night Lords, suddenly he can do his big attack twice in a row. Or Perturabo, for example, with mercy and forgiveness, can suddenly throw out 6 damage a turn every single turn. So I love Pyramid of Photep. I really hope I get it soon so I can throw it into all my decks. Triumph of Chaos is the final Chaos new card, and it's got a cool thing over here. Give a Mark of Chaos to all of your non-demon troops. So some of the Chaos Marine chapters, like I think Sons of Horus and Death Guard, they've got a similar type of ability which often costs less, but this is a common neutral card, meaning anyone can use it. And sometimes, and for certain builds, this can be a great ability to include. I personally think it costs a little bit too much, so I don't like it, but I can see how if you're going for a deck build which involves lots of units on the board, and ideally giving a couple of them Marks of Chaos, this one can really synergize well with that. Alright, and I think that's it from Chaos. So now we get to the main event, the new Mechanicum cards. We begin with Server Automata. So I think this is the first of, I believe, 10 Mechanicum cards. It's very cheap, very poor stats, but they're average for 1 energy. But it's got a neat energy ability, create a Mechadendrite in your hand. So your enemy will be really forced to decide whether they want to attack your Warlord or another important unit, or waste an attack or waste some energy wiping out these guys before they start creating Mechadendrites for you. Because Mechadendrites can often change the balance of a game by giving tiny but important buffs. So I do like these guys. Definitely important to include them in any Kelbor Howl build because it's going to help you throw out loads of Mechadendrites, but a lot of people can benefit from this, not even just Mechanicum decks. Next up, the Secretari Axiarch. This guy's amazing. For 2 energy, he's got pretty decent stats. Only 2 attack, but 3 health, that's above average, plus Survivor, so he's really got 4 health in a very usable way, because you have to attack him twice to kill him. And if that wasn't enough, he has this fantastic energy ability. Friendly infantry troops have +1 attack. So this guy is this guy is great. If you rely on infantry troops, so that's not demons, space marines, custodies, or vehicles or structures. If your deck has lots of infantry, this is a must include card. Next up, we get Secretari Peltas. This is an anti-stealth card, but their stats are actually quite decent. They're average for 3 energy. They have 3 attack and 3 health, but their rally ability is super neat. They deal 2 damage to a random stealth unit, which is cool, but they also stun whichever unit they hit, which is extra cool. So if you're trying to include some anti-stealth capability, these guys are definitely worth considering. Alright. Next up, we're looking at ML3 Castellax. Now, I don't like this guy. He's got pretty decent stats, 4 energy, 4 attack, and 5 health. But his special text over here, I am not a fan of at all. Attacks by itself at the start of its turn. A lot of the times, it's going to hit something you don't want. Either a unit which is too weak and it's overkill to use this guy on, or it's going to hit a unit which is too powerful and it dies, whereas you were sitting there with a tactic or another unit which would deal with that in your hand. So, or maybe you did want it to take out the powerful unit and it went and attacked the weakest enemy instead. But it's a random effect. I'm not a fan of random effects, so I'm going to give these guys a pass. On the other hand, you could play them and jam them with Sabotage, and then they become much more useful, but that feels like a waste of Sabotage. Vorax, on the other hand, this is incredible, and this is so strong, I'm sure it's going to get nerfed. It has decent stats for 4 energy, its attack's a little bit weak, but its health is average. It has flank though, so it can attack as soon as it goes into play, it just can't attack the enemy warlord. But it also has Bloodthirst, so it can actually, sorry, that was my phone ringing. It has Bloodthirst, so it can act twice in a turn when it attacks. So you can put this guy into play and quickly wipe out 2 weak enemy units, or you can put it into play and then you can take out 1 strong enemy unit, or at least 1 enemy unit with high health and low attack. So I like this guy a lot. I'm hoping to get him because he's almost a must include in any deck. Alright, next up we have Kiarai Domitar. So this is an interesting unit. He's got cost 5 energy, he's got great attack for 5 energy, slightly weak health for 5 energy. He's got a cool ability, so if he survives his first turn, for 4 energy you can start wiping out enemy vehicles. His main weakness is he is a vehicle himself, so he's vulnerable to crack grenades, and 1 crack grenade will just kill him instantly. So he's neat. It'll be interesting to see with these new cards if people start putting more crack grenades into their deck, because there are a fair number of vehicles. So I do still kind of like him. I would like to have faith and hope I can use him. 4 health is nothing to scoff at. There's a pretty decent chance that he'll survive till the next turn. This guy will help to do that. Security hoplites. If you control a vehicle, these guys get front line. So their stats are already average and almost worth it for 5 energy on those alone. But with this rally ability, he can actually really help to protect your vehicles and your warlord. So if you have a lot of vehicles, this guy makes a lot of sense. I can definitely see, for example, Narek Draeger, the Iron Hands vehicle generating warlord, putting security hoplites in his deck. Alright, the other thing which goes very well with that is Macrotech Engine Seer. So when you put him into play, all your vehicles get shield. So it's a good idea to have 2 Macrotech Engine Seers and 2 Secretary Hoplites in a vehicle heavy deck, because hopefully either you'll draw the Hoplites and you can play them to protect your vehicles, or you can get the Macrotech Engine Seer into play and then get your vehicles to protect themselves with a shield. And then hopefully the next turn you draw another one of these 2 guys. Alright, let's keep going on with this, and we're getting close to the end. We only have 2 more cards. The first is Voltarax. I love this. It's 7 energy, which is expensive. It has 9 health, which is great. 6 attack is very slightly lower than I'd like for 7 energy, but it has flank. So you can drop this on the board and quickly wipe out any enemy unit which has up to 6 health. As long as the enemy doesn't have a front line protecting it, I guess. But this can help to bail you out of a lot of troublesome situations. The downside is when he dies, and if you attacked a really powerful unit, he might die immediately. Your adjacent units to him, which might include your warlord, will take 2 points of damage. But often it might be worth it, because this guy will inflict 2 points of damage to your warlord as he dies, but he might take out something which is about to do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points of damage to your warlord. So totally worth it. I love this guy. Magnus the Red will especially love him, because that 2 points of damage he does will help to trigger Magnus's Whisper. Okay, and then we get to the very last card, which is Karaknos Tank. I don't like this. At first glance it looks cool, coming in at 8 energy and 9 health. Yeah, it's fought 5 attack, that's a little low, but it's got a very cheap energy ability with a very powerful effect. 4 damage to every single enemy infantry, space marine and custodes unit on the board. Now the only downside with that is at 8 energy, often you're seeing a lot of vehicles and powerful structures coming into play. And because of that, I consider Karaknos Tank to be a little too situational, in that it really relies on the enemy having enough infantry, space marines, or custodes in play to make his ability worth it. I don't know. There are other better things I'd have for 8 energy, like Lernian Hydras and stuff, so I'm going to give these guys a pass. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, if you haven't subscribed to me already, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. You get notified when my next videos go up. And I just want to give you a heads up on what those next videos will be. So, the clues are on this page. So, first of all, up here at the top, a couple of my commentators have noticed that I seem to have a fair bit of gold. I've been carefully hoarding this ever since I ended the last expansion with almost all the cards in the game, and I picked up the rest in the in-game shop with my gems. But I am planning on blowing most of my coins on crates to try to get my most important missing cards in my collection, and I'll talk about what those are in that next video. And then the other thing is, you'll notice this big red guy. So yes, the 1000 Suns have been nerfed, but I am still enjoying playing Magnus the Red a lot. And I'm getting a fair number of wins still with Magnus. So I wanted to actually talk you through what I'm doing with him, what those nerfs were, and how the 1000 Suns are changing as a result of those nerfs. And most importantly, how to keep winning as the 1000 Suns. So, those videos will hopefully go up this weekend. So until then, hope you guys have fun playing this game. Bye for now.